Welcome, everyone, to the Deep Dive. Today, we're embarking on a really essential exploration. It's all about arming you with the fundamental building blocks for project success.
That sounds great. What's the focus?
Our mission is to pull out the crucial insights from Chapter 4 of the Project Management Professional Guide, the PMP.
Ah, yes. Chapter 4, Models, Methods, and Artifacts.
Exactly. And this is really where the rubber meets the road for practical project management. It's the core stuff.
It really is. And, the PMP certification itself, it's not just about getting those letters after your name, is it?
No, not at all.
It's about mastering a kind of universal language for leading projects, fostering excellence, driving successful outcomes consistently.
Right. And that common language is so valuable for project managers or really anyone aspiring to lead.
Absolutely. It lets you communicate effectively, across different teams, different cultures even, build predictable processes, and ultimately just achieve success more reliably. It doesn't matter the industry, really.
And Chapter 4, like you said, models, methods, and artifacts. I always think of it as the toolkit chapter.
That's a perfect way to describe it.
It's where we get our hands on the essential instruments, the tools that every project manager needs to navigate, well, the complexities of any project.
Exactly. It's like opening up this beautifully organized toolbox. Everything you might need is right there.
But it's not just a list of tools.
Right.
That's the key point.
No, definitely not. The real insight here, and what we really want to unpack today, is understanding when and, maybe more importantly, how to apply the right tool for the job.
So it's about tailoring the approach.
Precisely. Developing that wisdom to tailor solutions, not just grabbing the same hammer for every single problem. The project world is, well, it's incredibly dynamic. And your toolkit, your approach, needs to be just as adaptable. You can't be rigid.
So, okay, our mission for this deep dive then, it's to really unpack these core concepts. Models, methods, artifacts. Understand what they're actually for.
Yeah, their utility.
Right, and equip you, the listener, with the knowledge to make, truly informed decisions on your own projects.
We're aiming for those aha moments.
Exactly, those moments where the theory suddenly clicks and becomes a practical skill you can use tomorrow. That's the goal.
And that transformation is so important because when you understand these structured ways of, well, thinking, doing, and documenting, you can proactively avoid so many common project pitfalls. Things just run smoother, stakeholders are happier, outcomes are more predictable.
It brings clarity to the chaos, basically.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It provides a framework, brings some order to what can often feel like, project chaos.
Okay, let's pull out those first three big tools then. Models, methods, and artifacts. These terms get thrown around a lot in project management.
They do.
So having a really clear distinction is, I think, fundamental to understanding how they all fit together. What exactly is a model? What's a method? What's an artifact?
Absolutely critical to get clear. Let's start with a model. A model is essentially a thinking strategy.
A thinking strategy.
Yeah. Think of it like a conceptual framework. Or maybe a mental map. It helps you explain a process, understand how a system works, maybe even predict something complex.
Okay, like a blueprint for understanding.
Exactly. A blueprint for understanding why things happen or how they relate in the real world. Like a weather model helps meteorologists predict the weather, right?
Yeah.
Or a business model explains how a company plans to make money. It's about the concept, the mental picture.
Got it. Okay, so that's a model. What about a method?
Right, so then we have a method. A method is the means for achieving a specific outcome, an output, a result, a project deliverable.
So this is the how-to.
This is the how-to, exactly. These are the specific systematic steps, the techniques, the approaches you actually use to get something done.
Like Agile. Or brainstorming.
Perfect examples. Agile is a broad method for managing projects iteratively. Brainstorming is a very specific method for generating ideas. It's about the practical application, the execution.
Okay, model is the thinking strategy, method is the how-to. What's the artifact?
And finally, the artifact. An artifact is, well, it's a tangible output.
Tangible, like something I can hold or see.
Yeah, or click on. It could be a template, a document, a report, maybe even the project deliverable itself. These are the concrete things you produce during a project.
Okay.
They serve as evidence of the work, they communicate information, they formally define things. A project charter, for example, that formally authorizes the project. That's an artifact.
Right. Or meeting minutes.
Meeting minutes, absolutely. They record decisions, actions. They are artifacts, too. They represent the concrete output, the evidence.
I like that distinction. thinking strategy, how-to, and tangible output that really clarifies it. Could you maybe give us a quick analogy to tie all three together? Something simple.
Sure, let's try one. Imagine you're a chef and you're tasked with creating a brand new signature dish for a restaurant.
Okay, I'm hungry already.
Yeah. So your model would be your deep understanding of flavor profiles, maybe culinary science, how different ingredients interact. It's the underlying theory of gastronomy, right? Your conceptual map.
Makes sense.
The methods are the specific cooking techniques you use. How you chop the vegetables, how you saute the meat, reduce the sauce, plate the dish beautifully. These are the practical steps in the kitchen. The how-to.
Got it.
And the artifacts. Those are the tangible results. The recipe itself, written down, that's a document artifact. The beautifully plated dish you present to the customer, that's a deliverable artifact. Even the inventory sheets tracking your ingredients, those are record artifacts.
Oh, okay. So the model is the food theory, the method is the cooking technique, the artifact is the recipe, and the final dish.
You got it. All three work together. Each is crucial for that final delicious success.
That really helps. So these three concepts, models, methods, artifacts, they really need to work together then, not in isolation, to guide how we behave on a project, engage people, and deliver successfully.
Precisely. They form a cohesive system. And this brings us back to a really crucial insight, the importance of tailoring.
Right, you mentioned that earlier.
Because no single model, no single method, no single artifact is going to work perfectly for every project. You have to be discerning, like a master craftsman choosing just the right tool.
So how do you choose?
Well, you have to look at the project's specific context. What's the internal environment like in your organization? What are the external factors, market conditions, regulations? Using stuff you don't need just adds cost, time, resources, and it can actually lead to misleading information or maybe just catering to someone's personal preference instead of what the project actually needs.
So it's about smart, context-driven selection, not just using everything in the book.
Exactly. Be selective. Be smart.
Okay, now that we have a solid grasp on what models are these thinking strategies, let's dive into some specific examples. These frameworks can really shape how we tackle problems on a project, right?
Absolutely. Models are incredibly powerful because they give us structured ways to understand and navigate complex situations, whether it's managing people, communicating better, or dealing with change.
Let's start with leadership. This is always fascinating. It seems obvious that a one-size-fits-all leadership style just doesn't work.
Oh, absolutely not. And situational leadership models really highlight why. They focus on adapting your leadership style based on the specific needs of an individual team member and maybe the team as a whole. One really prominent example is Ken Blanchard's Situational Leadership 2. This model looks at a team member's development level using two main factors: competence and commitment.
Competence and commitment. What do those mean exactly?
So competence is about their ability, their knowledge, their skills for a specific task. Commitment is more about their confidence and their motivation to actually do it.
Okay.
And the core idea, the real insight, is that as someone's competence and commitment change, the leader's style must adapt to be effective.
So how does that work in practice?
Well, imagine a brand new team member. Maybe they're super enthusiastic, high commitment, right?
Eager to learn.
But they have low competence because they're new. In that situation, a directing leadership style is best. You give clear, specific instructions, supervise closely.
Makes sense. Tell them exactly what to do.
Right. Now, maybe they gain some competence, but perhaps their initial motivation dips a bit as they hit challenges. So, lower commitment now.
Okay.
Then you shift to a coaching style. You guide them, explain decisions, give encouragement, lots of feedback.
Right. Help them through the struggle.
Then, as they become more competent, maybe moderate to high competence, but their commitment might still wobble. Maybe they need a confidence boost. You shift again, this time to a supporting style. You share decision-making, listen actively, offer support, but let them lead more.
Okay, more collaborative.
Exactly. And finally, for your seasoned expert, the person with high competence and high commitment.
The star player.
Yeah. You use a delegating style, you empower them, give them full ownership, minimal oversight. They just run with it.
So I've got a junior developer, fresh out of boot camp, joining my team.
Yeah.
I'd be very directive at first. Here's the task, here's our coding standard, check in with me in an hour.
Perfect.
But for my senior architect, who's been here 5 years and knows their stuff inside out,
Right.
I just say, okay, we need this new microservices architecture. I trust your judgment. Keep me posted. Delegate it.
That's precisely it. Let's call the junior Sarah and the architect David. With Sarah, you're not just saying what, but how. Very structured. With David, high competence, high commitment, you delegate. David, handle feature X architecture. Best approach is yours. Update me weekly. The real insight isn't about your favorite style.
Right.
It's about their developmental need at that moment for that task. Matching your style to their readiness maximizes their growth and your project's efficiency.
That makes a lot of sense. What about other leadership models?
Another really valuable one, especially for individual growth, is the OSCAR model, developed by Karen Whittleworth and Andrew Gilbert. Yeah, it's an acronym, OSCAR. It's a coaching and mentoring framework designed to help leaders adapt their style to support someone through a specific challenge.
Okay, what does OSCAR stand for?
Right, so O is for outcome. What's the desired result from this coaching chat? What does success look like for this person? S is for situation. You dive deep into their current skills, abilities, knowledge. What's the specific context of their challenge? How's it impacting them? C is for choices, consequences. You explore the options together. What are the viable ways forward? What are the pros and cons of each choice? A is for actions. You identify specific, concrete steps the person needs to take. What's the very next action? And R is for review. You monitor their progress, give feedback, and check in on their motivation. Keep them on track.
That sounds like a really structured way to have a coaching conversation. So how would this OSCAR model help me as a project manager guide a team member who's really struggling with a complex, maybe ambiguous task? They're just stuck.
Great question. That's exactly where OSCAR shines. It gives you a clear, empathetic path. Let's say your team member, Alex, is stuck on a tricky integration task.
Okay.
First, you define the outcome together. Okay, Alex, our goal for this chat is for you to feel confident moving forward and have a clear plan to get past this blocker.
Right. Set the goal for the conversation.
Then you explore the situation. Tell me exactly where you're stuck. What have you tried already? What skills or resources feel like they're missing? How is this impacting your progress overall? You really listen to understand their pain points.
Digging into the details.
Exactly. Next, choices, consequences. Okay, what are some possible ways to tackle this? Maybe you could bring in an expert for an hour. Could we break the problem down even smaller? Research alternative patterns. What do you see as the upsides and downsides of those ideas? You empower them to think through the options.
So they own the solution.
Right. Once a choice is made, you help define concrete actions. All right, so you decided the first step is to research those alternative patterns for 2 hours, then chat with the architect. Great. When will you aim to have that done by?
Make it specific and time-bound.
Yes. And finally, schedule the review. Let's touch base tomorrow morning then, see how the research went and discuss any next steps or challenges.
Got it.
The real insight with OSCAR, it moves beyond just giving them the answer. It builds their capability, their problem-solving skills. And that's invaluable for any project team in the long run.
Okay, moving beyond leadership, let's talk communication models. These are absolutely vital, especially now with, multicultural teams, remote teams.
Oh yeah, communication is everything. Or
Yeah.
the lack of it can be disastrous.
It really is the lifeblood of a successful project. One really insightful model here is cross-cultural communication, often linked with Brauways and Price.
Okay.
This model emphasizes that communication isn't just about the words spoken. Both the sender's and the receiver's frames of reference heavily influence how a message is interpreted. Frame of reference, what does that include?
It's everything. Their background knowledge, past experiences, language nuances, how they think, their preferred communication style, even stereotypes they might hold, and the existing relationship between them.
Wow, that's a lot.
It is. And the critical insight is that the message gets filtered through all these personal and cultural lenses.
So my direct, let's get it done style might work great in one culture.
Right.
But in another culture, it could come across as blunt, maybe even rude or aggressive, leading to misunderstandings or hurt feelings.
Exactly that. Imagine a project manager from, say, a typically low-context culture like Germany. They might say in a team meeting, this design is clearly inadequate. We need a complete overhaul by end of day.
Okay, direct feedback.
In their cultural frame, yes, focused on the task. But now imagine a team member from a high-context, maybe more hierarchical culture, perhaps Japan, where maintaining harmony and saving face is crucial. To them, that same statement could feel like a public shaming, deeply demotivating, a personal attack almost. The receiver's frame of reference completely changes the interpretation.
So it's not just about misunderstanding the words.
No, it can erode trust, make people hesitant to contribute in the future, and genuinely derail collaboration. The deep dive insight here is that understanding these cultural filters is just as important as crafting the message itself.
That's a powerful point.
Yeah.
What other communication models are key?
Another crucial one is the effectiveness of communication channels, which Alistair Cockburn explored. This deals with the concept of media richness.
Media richness.
Yeah, it's basically about how much learning and understanding can be transmitted through a specific communication medium. Like how much information can it carry effectively.
Okay.
Richness depends on a few things. Can the channel handle multiple cues simultaneously, like tone of voice, body language? Does it allow for rapid feedback? Can it establish a personal focus? Does it support natural, nuanced language?
So face-to-face is very rich.
Exactly. Face-to-face, or even good quality video conferencing, is considered a very rich channel. It conveys a full spectrum of information and allows for immediate clarification.
And things like email or text are less rich.
Right. Less rich channels like email, text messages, or formal written reports are better suited for simple, factual information where the context isn't as critical and maybe efficiency is more important.
So thinking about this,
Yeah.
what does it really mean for a project manager when they're deciding, should I send a quick email or should I call a meeting? Sometimes we just default to email because it's easy.
But the model suggests a more strategic choice is needed. It tells us, match the channel richness to the complexity and importance of the message.
Okay.
If you need to share a simple, factual update, server maintenance is Tuesday at 2 p.m., fine. An email or a quick chat message works. It's efficient. The message isn't complex.
Right.
But if you need to discuss a major project risk with big implications, or maybe resolve a sensitive conflict between two team members,
Then you need a richer channel.
absolutely. You need that face-to-face meeting, or at least a video call. You need the richness of real-time interaction, the ability to read those nonverbal cues, the immediate feedback loop to ensure understanding, build empathy, create genuine consensus.
So the critical insight is, using a lean channel for a complex or sensitive message is risky.
Hugely risky. It significantly increases the chance of misunderstanding, misinterpretation. It could lead to major project issues, delays, even team members feeling disconnected or unheard. It's about being intentional with your communication tools, not just defaulting to the easiest option.
Okay, let's shift focus slightly. What drives people? Motivation. It's
Yeah.
so key to team success. What models help us understand what actually makes people want to do good work?
Great question. Motivation is fundamental. Let's dig into some motivation models. A really foundational one is Frederick Hertzberg's hygiene and motivational factors.
Hertzberg. Okay.
Hertzberg had this groundbreaking insight. Job satisfaction and job dissatisfaction aren't opposites on the same scale. They actually come from entirely different sets of factors.
Interesting. So what are the two sets?
He called them motivational factors and hygiene factors. Motivational factors are related to the content of the work itself. Things like achievement, recognition, responsibility, opportunities for growth, the work itself being interesting.
Okay, the stuff that makes you feel good about the job.
Exactly. When these are present, they actively lead to job satisfaction and motivate people to perform better. But if they're absent, it doesn't necessarily cause dissatisfaction, more like a neutral state, a lack of motivation.
All right. And hygiene factors.
Hygiene factors relate to the context of the work. Think about salary, working conditions, company policies, the quality of supervision, job security.
The basics, kind of.
Sort of the basics, yeah. These factors don't inherently motivate people. Their main job is to prevent dissatisfaction. If you have poor hygiene factors, terrible pay, bad working conditions, people will be unhappy, dissatisfied.
Makes sense.
But crucially, if the hygiene factors are good pay, nice office people are simply not dissatisfied. They aren't necessarily motivated to go above and beyond.
So the real insight from Hertzberg is just paying people more or giving them perks, the hygiene stuff, it stops them from being unhappy, but it doesn't actually light a fire under them.
You've nailed it. That's the aha moment.
To get that real excellence, that drive, you need the motivational factors. Meaningful challenges, recognition, growth.
Exactly. A project manager who only focuses on hygiene factors, thinking pay them well and they'll perform, is often going to be disappointed. They might keep people from quitting, sure,
Right.
but they won't unlock the team's full potential. The strategic PM focuses on creating opportunities for achievement, recognizing contributions, giving responsibility. Those are the real drivers of peak performance and deep commitment.
That's powerful. What builds on that?
Well, Daniel Pink's work on intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation adds another really important layer, particularly for modern knowledge work.
Pink. Okay. Intrinsic versus extrinsic.
Pink argued that while extrinsic rewards, things like salary, bonuses, titles, they motivate, sure, but only up to a certain point.
What point is that?
Basically, the point where someone feels they are paid fairly for their work. Once you hit that fairness threshold, the motivational power of more money, especially for complex, creative work, starts to diminish significantly.
Interesting. So what takes over?
For that kind of complex problem-solving work we see in many projects, Pink says intrinsic motivators are far more powerful and sustainable. He identified 3 key ones.
Okay, what are they?
First, autonomy. That deep-seated human desire to direct our own lives and work.
Like having control.
Exactly. This translates to things like flexible work hours, maybe working from home sometimes, fostering self-managing teams where people have a say in how they approach the work.
Makes sense. What's the second?
Second is mastery. The innate urge to get better and better at something that matters, to improve our skills, achieve challenging goals, see tangible progress.
Like learning and growing.
Yes. And the third is purpose.
Yeah.
The fundamental desire to contribute to something larger than ourselves. When team members really understand the project's vision, its impact maybe on the organization, maybe on society, and how their specific work connects to that bigger goal, they feel a much deeper motivation. It's something money just can't buy.
That's incredibly insightful. But, project reality often involves tight deadlines, high stress. How can a project manager realistically foster that intrinsic motivation when the pressure is on?
That's a critical and very common challenge. But even under intense pressure, you can lean into these intrinsic drivers. For autonomy, maybe you offer choice within the constraints.
Like how?
Like, okay, team, this feature has to ship by Friday. That's non-negotiable. But how do you want to break down the work? Which tools do you think are best for this part? Who wants to tackle which piece? You give them agency within the boundary.
Okay, I see. What about mastery under pressure?
You can frame tough challenges as growth opportunities. Yeah, this bug is a beast, but figuring it out is a chance to really sharpen our debugging skills. Let's learn everything we can from this.
Turn the negative into a learning moment.
Right. And for purpose, constantly reiterate the why, especially when things get tough. Remember, everyone, this new module isn't just code. It's for our client's patient safety system. What we're doing directly impacts people's well-being.
Connect it back to the bigger picture.
Exactly. The real insight here is that these intrinsic motivators can actually be powerful antidotes to stress and burnout. They connect the hard work back to deeper personal values, growth, and meaning, even when the clock is ticking like mad.
Okay, let's talk about change. It feels like change is the only constant, especially in projects.
So true.
How do we manage it gracefully, both for the organization and for the individuals on our teams? This seems like an area where projects often stumble.
You've hit on a core truth. Successful projects almost always involve managing significant change. And managing it poorly. That's a fast track to failure. Let's look at several change models. The ADKR model, developed by Prosi, is particularly powerful because it focuses on the journey an individual goes through when adapting to change. This is crucial for PMs because projects mean people adopting new ways of working, not just installing new software.
ABKR, another acronym. What does this one stand for?
It describes 5 sequential stages. A is for awareness. People first need to understand why the change is necessary. What's the business reason? What happens if we don't change? D is for desire. Once they're aware, they need to develop a personal desire to support and participate in the change. This is often the trickiest stage. It's very personal. K is for knowledge. They need to know how to change. What are the new processes? How does the new system work? What are the new roles? This involves training. A is for ability. Knowledge isn't enough. They need the hands-on practice, the coaching, the access to experts to develop the ability to implement the change successfully, turning knowledge into performance. R is for reinforcement. Finally, you need things like rewards, recognition, positive feedback, maybe measurements, to reinforce the new behaviors and make them stick over time.
This sounds like a fantastic roadmap. If my project introduces, say, a completely new reporting process, I could use ADCO to guide the team through it step by step.
It really is. Using your example for that new reporting process, you'd first ensure awareness. Clearly explain why the old way was inefficient or problematic and how the new way benefits everyone, maybe even them personally.
Okay.
Then cultivate desire. Highlight personal benefits. Maybe it reduces their manual effort, gives them more accurate data for their decisions. Make it appealing.
Right. What's in it for them?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then provide knowledge through clear documentation, interactive training sessions on the new tools or process steps.
The how-to.
Then ability. Maybe hands-on workshops, A dedicated support channel, maybe pairing them with someone who's already grasped it, let them practice safely.
Let it.
And finally, reinforcement. Publicly recognize the early adopters, give positive feedback when people use the new process correctly, maybe integrate the new report into key meetings so everyone sees its value.
So the insight is you can build the best process or system in the world.
Right.
But if you don't consciously guide the individuals through these 5 stages, adoption will likely fail. People won't embrace it.
Precisely. It addresses the human side of change, which is often overlooked.
What about bigger organizational change?
For that, John Cotter's 8-step process for leading change is a classic. It's more of a top-down approach for driving significant transformations, often very relevant for large-scale projects impacting the whole organization.
Cotter's 8 steps. Okay, what are they?
It's a sequence. 1. Create urgency. You need to build a compelling reason why change is essential now. Identify threats, opportunities, make people feel the need. 2. Form a powerful coalition. Assemble a group of influential leaders from different areas who have the credibility and authority to champion the change. 3. Create a vision for change. Develop a clear, simple, inspiring vision of the future state, plus a strategy for how to get there. 4. Communicate the vision. You have to over-communicate the vision consistently, visibly. Leaders need to walk the talk. 5. Remove obstacles. Actively identify and remove barriers, outdated processes, rigid structures, maybe even resistant individuals or systems. 6. Create short-term wins. Plan for and celebrate early, tangible successes. These quick wins build momentum and show progress. 7. Build on the change. Use the credibility from early wins to tackle bigger challenges and drive the change deeper. Don't declare victory too early. 8. Anchor the changes in corporate culture. Integrate the new ways of working into the organization's core values and processes. Recognize and reward those who adopt the change until it becomes the way we do things here.
That sounds like a massive undertaking, like trying to steer a giant cargo ship into a completely new port through stormy seas.
That's a great analogy. Cotter's model is exactly about orchestrating that kind of large-scale shift, ensuring leadership is aligned and visible, cascading the change effectively, building belief and momentum along the way.
So the insight is that big change isn't just one event.
Not at all. It's a carefully managed, multi-stage process that requires persistent, visible leadership and constant reinforcement. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
What about the emotional side of change for individuals?
That's where Virginia Satir's change model is incredibly insightful. It focuses on how people experience and cope with change emotionally. Very helpful for PMs supporting their teams.
Satir. Okay, how does that work?
It describes a kind of emotional journey. It starts with the late status quo. Everything's familiar, comfortable, business as usual.
Comfort zone.
Right. Then comes the foreign element. Something new arrives, a new project starts, a new system is introduced, disrupting the familiar. This often brings resistance, maybe fear, and usually an initial dip in performance.
Okay, the disruption phase.
Then you hit chaos. This is often the toughest stage. People are in unfamiliar territory, performance drops to its lowest point. Feelings are unpredictable, anxiety, frustration, maybe anger, but sometimes excitement too, strangely enough. It's a period of intense experimentation as people try different things to cope.
Sounds stressful.
It can be. But then, hopefully, the transforming idea emerges. Someone has a breakthrough, finds a new way of thinking or working that helps them navigate the new reality. Performance starts to rise again.
Ah, the light bulb moment.
Kind of. Then comes practice and integration. People try out these new ideas, learn what works through trial and error. Performance improves, often climbing higher than the original status quo.
Learning the new way?
And finally, they reach a new status quo. The new environment becomes normal, comfortable, and performance stabilizes at this new, often higher level.
That model really captures the emotional roller coaster. But here's a tough question. How can a project manager effectively support a team member who's stuck deep in that chaos stage? Performance is low, emotions are all over the place. That seems incredibly challenging.
It is challenging, but absolutely critical. And the Satir model gives us clues. During chaos, the most important things a PM can provide are empathy, psychological safety, and clear, consistent communication.
So don't just demand results.
Definitely not. Acknowledge the difficulty first. Validate their feelings. Say something like, I understand this new system feels overwhelming right now, and that's a totally normal reaction. Reassure them that this performance dip is expected and temporary.
Okay, make it safe to struggle.
Exactly. Provide extra resources if needed. Offer one-on-one coaching. Have frequent informal check-ins, just how's it going? And really celebrate any small experiments or attempts they make to cope, no matter how tiny the step.
Focus on effort, not just outcome.
Right. The real insight is to create a supportive environment for discovery and learning. Your goal isn't to force an immediate solution or demand high performance during chaos. It's to help them experiment and find their own transforming idea. Ignoring the chaos or punishing the performance dip just leads to resentment, disengagement, and people getting stuck there longer. You need to facilitate their journey through it.
It's a much more human-centered approach.
Oh.
Okay, let's touch on complexity. Projects are rarely simple, right? Often ambiguous, uncertain.
Very true. Complexity models give us frameworks for making decisions when things aren't clear-cut.
Like the Sinefin framework.
Yeah.
I've heard that one.
Yes, the Sinefin framework, developed by Dave Snowden. It's brilliant. It categorizes decision-making contexts into 5 domains, each needing a different approach.
5 domains. What are they?
First, obvious contexts. Cause and effect is clear, known, repeatable. You just apply best practices, like following a standard recipe. You sense the situation, categorize it, respond with the known solution.
Simple stuff.
Relatively, yes. Second, complicated contexts. Here you have known unknowns. There might be multiple right answers, requiring expertise. You need to assess the facts, analyze the options, then apply good practices. Like troubleshooting a tricky car problem requires expertise. You sense, analyze, respond.
Oh, needs experts.
Third, complex contexts. This is where you have unknown unknowns, no obvious right answers. Cause and effect only makes sense in hindsight. You have to probe the environment, run experiments, sense what happens, and then respond with emergent practices. Like developing a truly innovative new product. You probe, sense, respond.
Trial and error, almost.
Guided trial and error, yes. Fourth, chaotic contexts, no cause and effect relationships are visible, everything's unstable. Your first job is just to act decisively to stabilize the situation, then sense where stability might be emerging, and respond to turn chaos into complexity. Think of a crisis situation, like a major system outage. Act, sense, respond.
Put the fire out first.
Exactly. And the 5th domain is disordered. That's when you're not even sure which of the other 4 contexts you're in. The advice here is to break the situation down into smaller parts and try to categorize those components to figure out how to act.
That cooking analogy you used earlier might work here too. Obvious is following a recipe. Complicated is troubleshooting a tricky dish. Complex is inventing a new dish. Chaotic is a kitchen fire.
That's a perfect way to visualize it, and the core insight is crucial. Knowing which context you're operating in tells you how to approach decision-making. You can't use an obvious recipe-following approach for a complex invention problem.
Right, applying the wrong approach would be disastrous.
Absolutely. If you try to manage a truly complex project like that innovative product where the market needs are still fuzzy with rigid upfront plans demanding fixed outcomes like it's obvious, you're setting yourself up for failure. Sinefin helps you choose the right diagnostic and response strategy for the situation's actual complexity. It's about being adaptive, not uniform.
Okay, let's switch to the team itself. Nurturing the team is huge.
Absolutely paramount. Project team development models help us understand how teams grow and how we can support their performance.
Like Tuckman's ladder. Forming, storming.
Exactly. The Tuckman ladder, Bruce Tuckman is the most famous one. It describes 5 typical stages, though remember, teams don't always go through them linearly. They can bounce back and forth.
Right. So forming.
Forming. Team comes together, polite, uncertain, learning about roles, the project.
Personalities emerge, maybe conflict arises, jockeying for position, challenging ideas. Can be uncomfortable but necessary.
Team starts to gel. Resolves issues, finds common ground, establishes norms, starts working together cohesively.
The high-performing stage. Synergy, trust, autonomy. The team achieves more together than individually. High-quality output.
Project ends, team disperses. Can be emotional if bonds were strong.
So, thinking about Tuckman, a PM who really gets it wouldn't try to avoid the storming phase. They might even facilitate it a bit to get through it faster. Is that the insight?
That's precisely the insight. A savvy PM understands that storming isn't a sign the team is failing. It's a necessary, even healthy, stage for growth. They don't suppress conflict or pretend disagreements don't exist.
Or they do instead.
They might actively encourage respectful debate, facilitate conflict resolution sessions, help the team establish clear ground rules for how they'll handle disagreements constructively.
Ah, so lean into it constructively.
Exactly. By addressing conflicts openly, the PM helps the team move through storming to norming much quicker. This prevents unresolved tensions from festering and undermining the team's long-term health and performance. It's about using that storm energy to build a stronger foundation.
Okay, speaking of conflict, how do we handle disagreements effectively? There must be models for that too.
Definitely. For conflict management, a really practical model comes from Ken Thomas and Ralph Kilman. It looks at how people approach conflict based on two dimensions: assertiveness, how much you try to satisfy your own concerns, and cooperativeness, how much you try to satisfy others' concerns.
Assertiveness and cooperativeness.
Okay. This gives us 5 main conflict handling styles, and each has its place. 1. Confronting problem solving. High assertiveness, high cooperativeness. You tackle the issue head-on, looking for a solution that fully satisfies everyone, a true win-win. 2. Collaborating. Also high on both, similar to problem solving, but maybe digs deeper into underlying needs to find a creative, mutually beneficial solution. 3. Compromising. Moderate on both dimensions. It's about give and take. Each party gives up something to find a middle ground, partial satisfaction for all. 4. Smoothing accommodating. Low assertiveness, high cooperativeness. You prioritize harmony and the relationship over your own immediate goals. Good when the issue isn't critical to you or maybe with a powerful stakeholder. 5. Forcing. High assertiveness, low cooperativeness. You impose your solution. Can be needed in a crisis when time is critical or there's a clear power difference. 6. Withdrawal avoiding, low on both. You step back hoping the problem disappears or recognizing it's a no-win situation to engage further.
That's a useful spectrum. Let's take a classic project scenario. 2 managers are arguing over who gets the team's top expert for a critical task next week. How might a PM use these different styles?
Great example. Okay, a PM using confronting problem solving would get both managers in a room, lay out the project priorities, the expert's availability, and facilitate a discussion to find a solution that truly works for both projects, maybe resequencing tasks, finding backup support, etc.
Seeking the optimal win-win.
Right. A collaborating PM might dig even deeper. Why exactly do you need this expert now? What's the underlying need? Maybe they uncover an innovative solution, like cross-training someone else, that benefits both projects long-term.
Okay. Compromising.
Compromising might be, okay, Manager A gets the expert Monday, Tuesday, Manager B gets them Wednesday, Thursday. Each gets something, but maybe not perfectly ideal.
Got it. Smoothing.
Smoothing accommodating, especially if one manager is, say, a senior exec. The PM might concede to the exec's request to maintain the relationship and political goodwill, perhaps asking for a favor later. Forcing, if the PM has clear authority and the deadline is absolute. Based on project priorities, the expert is assigned to Project A, decision made. Quick, decisive, but might damage relationships.
And avoiding.
Avoiding. The PM might hope the manager sort it out themselves or maybe escalate it upwards rather than tackling the conflict directly.
So the key insight is no single style is always right.
Absolutely. The most effective PMs understand when to deploy which style. It depends on how important the issue is, how important the relationship is, how much time you have, and the power dynamics involved. It's about strategic flexibility and handling conflict.
Okay, let's talk about planning. Is there a model for figuring out how much planning is enough?
Yes, there's a really important concept, sometimes called just-in-time planning, or finding the optimum amount. The model basically shows that planning has diminishing return.
Diminishing return.
Yeah. The core insight is that too much upfront planning, especially in dynamic environments, can cause huge delays, lost ROI, maybe you miss the market window, and the plans might be outdated before you even start.
Right, analysis paralysis.
Exactly. But conversely, too little planning leads to chaos and uncertainty. Big things get missed, lots of expensive rework, missed opportunities.
So there's a sweet spot.
There's a sweet spot. The model shows a point where spending more time on planning actually becomes counterproductive. The cost of delay outweighs the benefit of potentially more detailed plans.
So what does this mean for actually striking that balance? We can't plan forever, but we can't just jump in blind either, especially on complex projects.
It means we need to embrace adaptive planning. That's a cornerstone of modern project management. For projects with high uncertainty, maybe R&D, cutting-edge software, just enough planning might mean detailed plans only for the very near term, like the next iteration or two.
And keep the longer-term plans high level.
Exactly. High level and flexible for later stages. But for, say, a construction project where requirements are very stable and changes are costly, more extensive upfront planning is usually justified.
So it depends on the project type and uncertainty level.
Absolutely. The real insight is that planning isn't a one-off activity you do at the start. It's continuous. It's iterative. This model helps us recognize that striving for perfect upfront clarity is often less valuable than having sufficient clarity to proceed and adapting as you learn more. Be pragmatic.
Got it. One more model area, stakeholders. How do we figure out who really matters?
That's where the salience model comes in, developed by Mitchell, Agel, and Wood. Salience just means prominent or important.
Okay.
This model helps PMs figure out which stakeholders deserve the most attention based on 3 attributes they might possess.
3 attributes?
Yes. 1, power. Their ability to influence the project or its outcomes, positively or negatively. 2, legitimacy. Is their claim or involvement in the project considered valid or appropriate? 3, urgency. How quickly do their claims require attention? Is it time-sensitive, critical?
Power, legitimacy, urgency.
Okay, the real insight here is that by assessing stakeholders against these 3 factors, you can strategically prioritize your engagement efforts. Stakeholders who possess all 3, high power, high legitimacy, and high urgency, are called definitive stakeholders. These are the ones you absolutely must manage closely and proactively.
The critical ones.
Exactly. Others might only have 1 or 2 attributes, suggesting different levels or types of engagement might be appropriate. It helps you focus your limited time and energy where it matters most.
That seems incredibly useful for those big, complex projects with tons of stakeholders.
Yeah.
Like building a new hospital or something. You've got doctors, patients, government, community groups, contractors.
Perfect example. For that hospital project, senior hospital administrators, high power, high legitimacy, maybe high urgency depending on the issue. Local residents worried about noise, maybe lower power initially, but high legitimacy and potentially high urgency, and they could gain power by organizing. A key regulatory agency, high power, high legitimacy. Using the salience model helps the PM strategically map this complex landscape.
So you know who needs intense engagement, who needs just information, who needs consultation.
Precisely. It avoids treating all stakeholders the same, which is inefficient and risky. It's a strategic tool for managing influence and navigating that complex web of interests effectively.
Okay, fantastic overview of models. Now let's switch gears. We talked about how we think models. Now let's talk about how we do things, the methods.
Right, the hands-on techniques.
These are the practical applications for actually getting project work done, where we get into the nuts and bolts.
Exactly. Methods are those practical applications, the specific techniques we use across projects to achieve an outcome. There are tons of them, of course, but we can highlight some really impactful categories.
Okay, where should we start? Data seems like a good place. We're drowning in data these days.
Good call. Data gathering and analysis methods are crucial for making sense of all that information to inform decisions.
So what falls under this?
Lots of things. Let's focus on one really critical area within this: business justification analysis. These are the methods you use to actually authorize or justify doing a project or making a major decision within a project. You need to build a compelling case, often financial.
Proving the value. Okay, what methods help with that?
Common ones include payback period. Simple one. How long does it take to get your initial investment back from the project's cash flow? Quick, but ignores what happens after payback and the time value of money. Return on investment, ROI, that's a percentage. Shows the profitability relative to the cost. Formula is basically net profit cost of investment by 100. Very common. Net present value, NPV. This one's more sophisticated. It calculates the present value of all future cash flows, inflows, and outflows discounted back to today. Why? Because money today is worth more than money tomorrow. A positive NPV generally means it's a good investment financially. Cost-benefit ratio. Pretty straightforward comparison. Total benefits divided by total costs. A ratio like 3.1 means you expect $3 in benefits for every $1 spent.
Okay, ROI and NPV both sound like they measure profitability. What's the real difference, and when would I, as a PM, choose one over the other to justify my project?
Excellent question. They tackle profitability from different angles, and knowing the nuance is key for picking the right tool. ROI is that simple percentage.
Easy to understand.
Exactly. It gives you a quick, digestible metric of gain versus cost. Great for high-level comparisons, maybe shorter-term projects, or explaining things to non-financial folks because it's intuitive.
Okay, and NPV?
NPV is more rigorous. Its crucial insight is acknowledging the time value of money, that future cash isn't worth the same as cash today due to inflation, investment opportunities, etc. So NPV discounts all those future cash flows back to their value today.
So it's more accurate for longer projects?
Generally, yes. It gives a much more accurate financial picture for larger, longer-term projects where the timing of cash flows really matters, and you need to factor in things like the cost of capital or interest rates. A positive NPV is a strong indicator the project truly adds economic value.
So use ROI for quick comparisons, simplicity, shorter projects.
Right.
And use NPV for bigger, longer-term investments where financial accuracy and the timing of money are critical.
That's the general rule. NPV is considered the more robust financial decision-making tool for significant investments. The trade-off is, well, ROI is simple, NTV is more complex, but more accurate for those big bets.
Got it. What other data analysis methods are crucial?
We absolutely have to mention earned value analysis, EVA.
EVA.
Yeah.
Sounds important.
It is. EVA is brilliant because it integrates scope, schedule, and cost performance measures all together. It gives you a truly holistic view of your project's health at any given point.
How does it do that?
The core insight of EVA is its ability to answer 3 key questions. How much work did we plan to do by now? That's plan value, or PV.
Right.
How much work did we actually accomplish? That's earned value, or EV. And how much did the work we actually accomplished cost us? That's actual cost, or AC.
Okay, PV, EV, AC.
By comparing these 3 values, EVA gives you really useful metrics like cost variance, CV equals EVAC, and schedule variance, SV equals EVPV. And also performance indices like the cost performance index, CPI equals EVAC, and the schedule performance index, SPI equals EVPV.
So they tell you if you're on track.
Instantly, they tell you if you're under or over budget, ahead of or behind schedule.
So if my cost performance index, CPI, drops below 1.0 a day, that's a big red flag, right? Means I'm spending more than the work is worth.
Huge red flag. A CPI less than 1.0 means exactly you're getting less than $1's worth of work done for every dollar you're spending. You are over budget and inefficient.
And SPI below 1.0 means behind schedule.
Correct. And SPI less than 1.0 means you've completed less work than you planned to by this point in time. You are behind schedule. The beauty of EVA isn't just reporting the past, it's a proactive diagnostic tool.
An early warning system.
Absolutely. Catching these variances early, thanks to EVA, lets you take corrective action. Maybe you need to adjust forecasts, maybe initiate a formal change request, maybe find efficiencies. You can act before the problems become massive and maybe unrecoverable. It turns raw data into truly actionable insights about performance trends.
Okay, moving on to another tricky area. Estimating. This feels like one of the hardest parts of project management. What methods can help us get it right, or at least, less wrong?
Less wrong is often the goal. Estimating is definitely a challenge, a mix of art and science. But there are methods that significantly improve accuracy. Let's look at a few key ones for estimating work, time, or cost.
Okay.
Analogous estimating. This is quick and dirty, basically, top down. You use historical data from a similar past project to estimate the current one. Last time we did something like this, it took 3 weeks, so this probably will too. Fast, but not very precise.
Okay, based on past experience.
Parametric estimating. This uses statistical relationships. You use historical data and project parameters in an algorithm. For example, if you know the average cost per square foot to build a certain type of office.
You just multiply by the new building square footage.
Exactly. It can be quite accurate if the historical data is relevant and the parameters are reliable. More accurate than analogous, usually.
Right.
Multi-point estimating, like PERT. Now, this is where we really tackle uncertainty head-on. Instead of giving just one single guess, which is bound to be wrong.
Yeah, the single point of failure estimate.
Right. PERT, that stands for Program Evaluation and Review Technique, uses 3 estimates. An optimistic estimate, O, best case, a pessimistic estimate, P, worst case, and most likely estimate, M.
O, P, and M.
Okay. Then you combine these, often using a weighted average. The classic P formula is O plus 4M plus P6. This gives you a more realistic, probability-weighted estimate for duration or cost. The insight is that it explicitly acknowledges and quantifies the uncertainty range.
That sounds much more robust than just one number.
It is. And related to that is wideband Delphi. This is a consensus-based technique.
How does that work?
You get a group of experts. They all provide individual anonymous estimates first. Then these estimates are compiled and shared. The group discusses the results, especially why the highest and lowest estimates are so different.
Force people to explain their reasoning.
Exactly. Then, based on the discussion, everyone re-estimates anonymously. You repeat this process for a few rounds until the estimates converge into a narrow range or reach a consensus. Planning poker, which is popular in agile teams, is a fun variation of this, using cards for quick, relative estimates.
So let me try that travel time analogy again. If I'm estimating my commute, which I do every day, analogous estimating is probably fine. Usually takes 30 minutes.
Right, lots of historical data in your head.
But if I'm estimating the drive time to a city I've never visited with unpredictable traffic, then using multi-point, P-ER, would be smarter. Best case 2 hours, worst case 4 hours, most likely 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Calculate the weighted average,
Yeah.
acknowledges the uncertainty.
Perfect. And if you had a group of friends who had all driven to that city before, using wideband Delphi or planning poker with them would be even better.
Pool their collective knowledge, discuss the outlier.
Exactly. Mitigate individual biases, get a much more robust estimate through that structured discussion and iterative refinement. The core takeaway: the more uncertain the task, the more sophisticated and collaborative your estimating method should probably be. Don't use a simple tool for a complex problem.
Makes total sense. Okay, what about meetings and events? They take up so much project time.
They do, and they are absolutely crucial for engaging the team, stakeholders, making decisions, communicating. They're a primary vehicle for getting things done.
So which ones are really indispensable?
Well, let's focus on a few that are cornerstones in many approaches. Daily stand-up or daily scrum. That quick, daily sync-up on progress, plans for the day, and critically, any obstacles or impediments. Iteration review or sprint review. Held at the end of an iteration or sprint. The team demonstrates the work they actually completed to stakeholders, gets feedback, very important feedback loop. Retrospective. This is a regular workshop, often after an iteration review. The team reflects on how they worked together, what went well, what didn't, what can we improve in the next cycle. It's about continuous process improvement, lessons learned meeting. Similar to a retrospective, but often broader, maybe held at the end of a major phase, or the entire project. Capturing knowledge, successes, and failures for future projects. Steering committee meeting. These are meetings with senior stakeholders, the people who provide strategic direction, resources, and make the big decisions that are often beyond the project team's authority.
Okay, let's pick one of those. The daily stand-up. Why is it considered so important, especially in Agile? And what's the secret to making it actually effective, not just a, boring status report meeting?
Great question, because they can become ineffective if not done right. The daily stand-up is critical because it's a high-frequency, short synchronization point for the team by the team.
Synchronization, okay.
Its main purpose is to quickly share progress, state intentions for the day, and this is the most important part, immediately highlight any impediments or blockers that are slowing someone down.
So it's about unblocking problems fast.
Exactly. It fosters transparency within the team, encourages self-organization, and enables rapid problem identification. Things don't fester for days.
So how do you keep it effective?
Absolute discipline and brevity are key. It needs to be truly daily, usually the same time, same place. Keep it short, often time-boxed to 15 minutes. Standing up physically helps keep people focused and concise.
And the content.
Stick to the 3 core questions. What did I accomplish yesterday? What will I work on today? And are there any impediments blocking my progress? And here's the crucial insight, the secret sauce. It is not a problem-solving meeting.
Don't try to fix the problems in the stand-up.
No. If someone raises an impediment, acknowledge it, identify who needs to discuss it, and then take that discussion offline immediately after the stand-up, involving only the necessary people. Don't derail the meeting for everyone else.
Keep it crisp, focused on information sharing and impediment identification.
Precisely. That prevents the waste of time feeling and ensures it remains a valuable, quick communication hub, not an endless debate forum. Just a couple other methods to mention quickly. Have you heard of Net Promoter Score, NPS?
NPS vaguely. It's about customer satisfaction, right?
Exactly. It's an index measuring a customer's willingness to recommend your product, service, or company. The critical insight is that it acts as a powerful, simple proxy for overall customer satisfaction and loyalty, and many believe it predicts future growth.
How does it work?
It usually boils down to one key question. On a scale of 0 to 10, how likely are you to recommend user product to a friend or colleague? Based on the score, customers are categorized as promoters, 9-10, passives, 7-8, or detractors, 0-6. The NPS score is the percentage of promoters minus the percentage of detractors.
So it's like taking the temperature of your customer base. A quick measure of delight or dissatisfaction.
That's a perfect analogy. Like a thermometer gives a quick read on health, NPS gives a quick read on customer loyalty. It condenses complex sentiment into one easy-to-track number.
And why is that strategically valuable for a project team?
Because it gives you rapid feedback on how your deliverables are actually being received in the market. A falling NPS, or a low one, can be an early warning sign. It might signal a need to pivot on features, improve the user experience, or rethink the project's direction potentially long before you see a dip in sales figures. It helps keep the project truly focused on delivering what customers value.
Okay, we've covered models, thinking strategies, and methods. how-tos. Now, what about the stuff we actually produce, the artifacts?
Right, the tangible outputs.
Either the documents, the reports, the deliverables that help us track progress, communicate, and actually deliver the project, right?
Exactly. Artifacts are those tangible records and deliverables. They're crucial for clarity, for communication, and honestly, for creating historical data that helps you get better on future projects. They are the evidence that work is happening and decisions are being made.
Okay, what are some key categories of artifacts?
We can group them. First, let's look at strategy artifacts. These are usually high-level documents created right at the beginning or even before the project officially kicks off.
Like what?
Things like a business case, which lays out the value proposition. Why are we even doing this project? What are the expected benefits? Also, the project charter. This is a huge one. It formally authorizes the project and gives the PM authority. And maybe a high-level roadmap showing the major goals and milestones over time, perhaps for a whole product line.
You said the project charter is huge. It sounds almost like the official birth certificate for the project. Is that a fair comparison?
That is an excellent analogy. The project charter is the birth certificate. Its crucial insight is that it formally brings the project into existence within the organization. It gives it an initial identity, defines its high-level purpose and scope, and critically, it empowers the project manager. It grants them the official authority to use organizational resources.
So without a charter, you're kind of unofficial.
Pretty much. A project might be happening informally, but it lacks formal backing. The PM lacks formal power. That makes it incredibly difficult to get resources, navigate conflicts, or push back on unreasonable demands. The charter is that foundational, authoritative document. It says, this project is real and this person is in charge.
Got it. Okay. What's next after strategy artifacts?
Then we have logs and registers. These are artifacts that are continuously updated throughout the project. Think of them as living documents. The terms log and register are often used interchangeably, by the way.
Living documents. Okay.
Key examples include the issue log. This tracks and monitors active issues, problems, or conditions that are currently impacting the project. And the risk register. This is where you keep track of all the identified risks, their potential impact, probability, who owns them, and what your planned response is.
Wait, what's the key difference between an issue log and a risk register? They both sound like lists of problems or potential problems. Why keep them separate?
Common confusion, but the distinction is vital for proactive management. Here's the core insight. A risk is a potential future event. It might happen, and if it does, it might impact your project positively or negatively. It's about the future, it's uncertain, you plan for risks.
Okay, future possibility.
An issue, on the other hand, is a current problem. It has already happened or is definitely happening right now, and it is impacting your project objectives. It's about the present reality. You react to issues.
Risk, future potential, issue, present actual.
Exactly. Your risk register holds possibilities you're monitoring and have response plans for. Your issue log holds problems that need immediate action and resolution now. Keeping them separate helps you stay proactive, managing risks to prevent issues, rather than just reactive, constantly fighting fires listed in the issue log. Conflating them leads to less effective management.
That clarifies it perfectly. Okay, what about plans? That seems like a huge category of artifacts.
It is. Plans are essentially artifacts that outline the proposed way of accomplishing something. They often become components of the overall project management plan. They detail how you'll manage specific aspects of the project.
Right, the blueprints for action.
Precisely. The big one, the king of plans, is the project management plan itself. This isn't usually just one document, but the overarching integrated collection of subsidiary plans and baselines. It describes how the entire project will be executed, monitored, controlled, and closed. It's the master strategy document.
The mothership plan. And it contains other plans.
Exactly. It integrates subsidiary plans like the communications management plan. Who needs what info, when, how will they get it? The risk management plan. How will we identify, analyze, respond to, and monitor risks throughout the project? The stakeholder engagement plan. How will we keep stakeholders appropriately involved and informed? The stakeholder engagement plan. And others for scope, schedule, cost, quality, resources, procurement.
So all these individual plans roll up into the main project management plan. That's the core idea.
That's the core insight, yes. The project management plan is that integrated master blueprint. All those subsidiary plans need to work together, be consistent, and form a cohesive whole. It ensures every critical aspect of the project is considered and managed systematically. It provides that single source of truth for how the project runs. Without that integration, you risk managing different parts of the project in isolated silos, which inevitably leads to conflicts, gaps, and inefficiencies.
Got it. Okay, what about charts that break things down? Hierarchies.
Yes, hierarchy charts. These are artifacts that start with high-level information and progressively break it down, decompose it into more and more detail. They're fantastic for bringing clarity to complex structures and ensuring everything is covered.
Makes sense. Like an org chart.
An organizational breakdown structure, OBS, is one type, yes. It shows the project organization, departments, teams involved. But the most crucial one for project managers is usually the work breakdown structure, WBS.
The WBS. Heard that acronym a million times. What is it, fundamentally?
The WBS is a hierarchical decomposition of the total scope of work the project needs to accomplish its objectives and create the required deliverables. It breaks everything down into smaller, more manageable components, typically called work packages at the lowest level.
So it's a breakdown of all the work.
All the work. The core insight is the WBS organizes and defines the entire scope of the project. If it's not in the WBS, it's not officially part of the project scope. Other hierarchy charts exist too, like a risk breakdown structure, RBS, categorizing risk sources, or a resource breakdown structure, RBS, showing resource types.
Okay, let's stick with the WBS for a second. You said if it's not in the WBS, it's not in scope. How does that specifically help prevent scope creep? And why is preventing scope creep so darn important?
The WBS is probably your single most powerful tool against scope creep. The crucial insight is precisely what you said. It rigorously defines 100% of the work required for the project and nothing more. By breaking the total scope down into those manageable work packages, it creates a clear, documented boundary.
The boundary, okay.
Once that WBS is formally approved and becomes part of your scope baseline, it acts like a contract for the work. Scope creep, which is that uncontrolled, unapproved expansion of scope without adjusting time, cost, or resources, well, it's a notorious project killer.
Leads to budget overruns, delays.
Exactly, burned out teams. The WBS makes it very easy to identify when a new request or idea falls outside that agreed upon boundary. You can clearly point to the WBS and say, that's a great idea, but it's not currently in our defined scope as shown here. We need to evaluate it through the formal change control process.
So it forces a formal evaluation instead of just adding stuff.
Precisely. It gives the PM a concrete tool to manage changes formally, ensuring that the impacts of new scope on budget, schedule, and resources are properly assessed and approved, rather than just letting the scope quietly expand until the project collapses under its own weight. It's fundamental for control.
That makes perfect sense. What about baselines? You mentioned them being part of the project management plan.
Yes, baselines are critical artifacts. Think of them as your measuring sticks. They are the approved versions of key project elements, scope, schedule, cost that you use as a stable reference point to compare your actual performance against throughout the project.
Measuring sticks. Okay.
The critical insight is you can only truly manage performance if you have a stable baseline to measure against. Otherwise, how do you know if you're on track?
Good point. What are the key baselines?
The main ones are the budget baseline, often called the cost baseline, the approved time-phased budget for the project, how much you expect to spend and when, the schedule baseline, the approved project schedule with start and finish dates for activities and milestones, the scope baseline. This is the approved version of the scope statement, the WBS itself, and its associated WBS dictionary, which defines the work packages. This one is super important and should only be changed through formal change control, the scope baseline. And sometimes these are combined into the performance measurement baseline, PMP, which integrates scope, schedule, and cost baselines for overall performance management, especially when using earned value analysis.
Okay, so if my actual costs start consistently going higher than my budget baseline, or my project milestones keep slipping past the dates in my schedule baseline, that's my immediate signal that something's wrong, right? A big red flag.
Absolutely. That's the core insight and the power of baselines. They are your project's primary early warning system. When actual performance deviates significantly from the approved baseline, it immediately flags a variance that needs investigation.
Tells you you're off track.
Exactly. You're spending more than planned or taking longer than planned. Why? Was the estimate wrong? Did an unexpected risk materialize? Are there inefficiencies? Identifying this variance early, because you have that stable baseline to compare against, allows you to take prompt corrective action.
Before it gets too bad.
Right. adjust forecasts, initiate changes, find solutions. Without baselines, you're essentially flying blind. You might feel like you're making progress, but you have no objective way to know if you're truly meeting the plan until it's potentially too late. They are fundamental for control.
Okay, that's clear. What about visual artifacts? Ways to show data?
Yes, visual data and information artifacts are incredibly powerful. Humans are visual creatures. These artifacts organize and present data graphically, turning raw numbers or complex information into something much easier to understand quickly. The insight is that visualization aids faster comprehension, supports better decision-making, and helps with things like prioritization.
Makes sense. What are some key examples here? There seem to be a lot.
There are many. Let's highlight three that are almost universally useful. Dashboards. We mentioned these briefly. They are collections of charts and graphs showing real-time project status and performance against key metrics. Think high-level overview at a glance. Dashboards. The Responsibility Assignment Matrix, RAM, often in the form of a RACI chart. RACI stands for Responsible, Accountable, Consulted, Informed. This matrix clearly shows who does what for each work package. Who is doing the work, who owns it. A, who needs to be asked, C, and who just needs to be told. The insight is crystal clear roles and responsibilities. Burn down, burn up charts, especially common in Agile. These visually track the work remaining, burn down, or work completed, burn up over time, typically within a sprint or release. The insight is transparent progress tracking and velocity visualization.
Okay, dashboards or AZI charts, burn charts, that's a good start. Focusing on dashboards for a second, you compared them to a car's instrument panel earlier. That seems like a great analogy for their purpose.
Yeah. It really is. Just like your car's dashboard instantly shows you speed, fuel level, engine warnings, a project dashboard gives you that immediate visual snapshot of your project's vital signs.
Budget burn, schedule progress, maybe key risks.
Exactly. Quality trends, upcoming milestones, it's all there presented graphically for rapid comprehension. The crucial insight is they are designed for busy stakeholders and the PM who need that high-level status quickly without digging through pages of reports.
So it helps you spot problems faster.
Definitely. A well-designed dashboard acts like a co-pilot, constantly monitoring the project's health. You can spot deviations from the plan much faster and react proactively. It facilitates quick understanding and decision-making.
All right, what about when we need to work with external companies, buying goods or services?
Then agreements and contracts become essential artifacts. When you engage external parties, these legally binding documents define the terms, conditions, scope, and expectations. They are fundamental for managing those relationships and, crucially, for allocating risk between the buyer and the seller.
Allocating risk. Okay, what are the main types of contracts we should know?
The big categories revolve around how payment and risk are handled. Fixed price contracts. Here, the seller agrees to do the work for a set, fixed price regardless of their actual costs. This puts most of the cost risk onto the seller. Examples include firm fixed price, FFP, fixed price incentive fee, FPIF, where there are incentives for meeting targets, and fixed price with economic price adjustment, FPEPA allows for adjustments due to inflation, etc. Cost reimbursable contracts. In this type, the buyer pays the seller for their actual legitimate costs incurred, plus an agreed-upon fee, which represents the seller's profit. This puts most of the cost risk onto the buyer. Examples include cost plus fixed fee, CPFF, cost plus incentive fee, CPIF fee varies based on performance, and cost plus award fee, CPIF fee based on subjective performance assessment. Time and materials, TNM. This is a hybrid. The buyer pays a fixed hourly or daily rate for labor plus the actual cost of materials used. It shares the risk, often used when the exact scope or effort isn't clear up front, like for consulting or staff augmentation.
Okay, fixed price versus cost reimbursable seems like a fundamental choice. When would I, as a PM, strategically choose one over the other? What are the big trade-offs?
That's a core procurement strategy decision, and it really hinges on scope definition and risk tolerance. You typically choose a fixed price contract when the scope of work is very well defined, the requirements are stable, and there's high certainty about what needs to be delivered.
Because you know exactly what you're buying.
Exactly. The crucial insight for the buyer is cost certainty. You know the price up front, the trade-off. Because the seller is taking on most of the risk for cost overruns, they'll likely build some contingency into their price. And making changes to the scope later can be difficult and expensive to negotiate.
Okay. And cost reimbursable.
You'd choose a cost reimbursable contract when the scope is less defined, maybe requirements are expected to evolve, or the work involves significant uncertainty, like research or innovation.
So it offers more flexibility.
That's the main advantage for the buyer, flexibility to adapt the scope as you learn more. The big trade-off, however, is that the buyer assumes most of the cost risk. You're paying for actual costs, whatever they turn out to be, plus the fee. This means less cost certainty up front.
And the seller might have less incentive to control costs.
Potentially, yes, which means the buyer's project manager needs to exercise strong oversight, auditing, and transparent reporting to manage those costs effectively. So the choice boils down to how well defined is the scope, and who is better positioned or more willing to bear the risk of cost variations, the buyer or the seller. It's a fundamental risk allocation decision.
Wow, okay. We have covered a massive range of tools here: models for thinking, methods for doing, artifacts for documenting and delivering. It honestly feels a bit overwhelming. How do we possibly know which ones to use and where?
That is a totally natural reaction. There are so many tools in the toolbox. The PMP guide itself actually provides some really helpful tables, figures 4.2 and 4.3 specifically, that map these out.
What do the tables show?
They basically show which models, methods, and artifacts are typically used or most relevant within the different project performance domains. Domains like managing the team, engaging stakeholders, choosing your development approach and life cycle, handling planning, executing the actual project work, ensuring delivery, performing measurement, and navigating uncertainty.
So they give you a starting point. If you're working on planning, consider using these methods and artifacts.
Exactly. They provide guidance. But, and this is the absolutely critical insight, these tables are not prescriptive. They are not checklists you must follow rigidly.
So they're suggestions, not rules.
Precisely. The ultimate responsibility lies with the project manager and the project team to select and, importantly, tailor the models, methods, and artifacts that make the most sense for their specific project.
Tailoring again. Keeps coming back to that.
It's the cornerstone of effective project management. You have to consider your project's unique characteristics, the specific stakeholders involved, the organizational culture and environment. Think of that master mechanic's toolbox again.
All right, you don't use every single tool on every single car repair.
Of course not. You choose the right wrench for the specific bolt, the right diagnostic tool for the specific problem. Project management is the same. It's about informed selection, smart adaptation, constantly asking yourself, which of these tools will provide the most value, the most clarity, the most efficiency right here, right now, for this specific challenge. Don't just use something because it's in the book. Use it because it helps.
Okay, that's a relief and a really important point. It's about judgment, not just memorization. Wow, what an incredibly expansive and really insightful tour of the project manager's essential toolkit. Let's try to quickly recap some of the biggest takeaways just to help cement this for everyone listening.
Sounds good. It was a lot to cover. First, let's really lock down those definition distinctions. Remember, models are your thinking strategies, the mental frameworks, the why, or how it works conceptually. Methods are your how-to approaches, the specific techniques, the doing part, the execution. Artifacts are your tangible outputs, the documents, reports, deliverables, the evidence. They're distinct categories, but as we saw, they're deeply interconnected and work together.
Got it. Models, thinking, methods, doing, artifacts, outputs. What else?
Second, and maybe the single most important lesson from this whole chapter, tailoring is absolutely key. Say it again. Tailoring.
Okay. Tailoring is key.
No single tool, no single process fits every project, or even every phase of the same project. Real project success hinges on wisely selecting and adapting these elements to the unique context. Always ask, is this actually useful here? Does it give us accurate, actionable info? Does it serve the project's real needs?
Or is it just process for process's sake?
Exactly. Avoid anything that doesn't add genuine value, or worse, produces misleading information just because it's on some template. It's about intelligent, context-driven adaptation.
Okay, Taylor. What's takeaway number 3?
Third, recognize that this chapter provides an incredibly comprehensive toolkit. We touched on everything from understanding team motivation and managing complex organizational change, to estimating costs effectively, communicating strategically across cultures, tracking progress visually with dashboards and burn charts, and handling formal contracts. It's a holistic view of the diverse instruments available to you.
It really covers a lot of ground.
And finally, understanding these tools genuinely leads to empowerment. Knowing these models, methods, and artifacts empowers you as a project manager to be more adaptive, a more effective leader. You become better equipped to navigate complexity, foster better team dynamics, make smarter decisions, and ultimately consistently deliver real value to your organization and stakeholders.
So it's not just about passing the PMP exam.
Not at all. It's about becoming a truly strategic, capable, and effective project leader in the real world.
That's a great way to frame it. As you can probably hear, really grasping these models, methods, and artifacts is almost like gaining a project management superpower. It shifts you from just following steps to making informed strategic choices.
Well said. And maybe a final thought for listeners. Reflect on a project you're working on right now, or one you know well. Can you identify just one model, or one method, or maybe one artifact we discussed today that, if you applied it thoughtfully, could bring immediate clarity? Maybe resolve a conflict, improve communication, tackle a specific challenge you're facing.
That's a great challenge. Pick one thing and try it.
Exactly. Take that thought, explore it, experiment with it, and see how it might transform your approach, even in a small way.
Fantastic advice. Well, thank you so much for guiding us through that incredibly rich chapter. And thank you, everyone, for joining us on this deep dive into the PMP guide. We really hope you're feeling more confident and maybe even inspired about building and using your own project management toolkit.
Remember, this knowledge is about transforming potential into actual performance.
Absolutely. And next time, we'll continue our journey building right on this foundation to explore even more exciting aspects of bringing projects to life successfully. Until then, stay curious and keep diving deep.